All that is gold does not glitter, not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither, deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken, a light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken, the crownless again shall be king.
If you search YouTube for Aragorn and filter by most viewed and look for the first video centering around Aragorn, one video comes out on top. Ghost Army Summoned to Fight, with over 17 million views. The video combines two key moments from The Lord of the Rings. The first being when Aragorn and his companions confront the dead men of Dunharrow and win their allegiance, and the later being Aragorn releasing them after their oath is fulfilled. But why do these moments resonate so deeply with people? Why not the moment where he fends off the evil Nazgul? Or some other epic moment featuring Aragorn? What makes this moment so special? And what does that tell us about the modern human psyche? Well, that is the question that we will be exploring in this video. We are Curious Cinema, and we explain movies, series, and so on through the lenses of psychology, philosophy, myth, and more. So if that sounds like something for you, consider subscribing, as it really helps out the channel a lot. With that out of the way, let us dive in. The video opens with Gandalf the White, laying out the dire circumstances for their struggle against Sauron and his vast forces. The enemy is ready, his armies stand united, their strength is at its peak. Then Elrond, the Lord of Rivendell, appears. His words carry the same weight, reminding us that the end has come, that the final hour is at hand. The recipient of these words is Aragorn, and with a measured, steady tone, he responds. He will not be our end, but his. Through the lens of psychology, we can already see two archetypes at work, embodied by three individuals. First, we have Gandalf and Elrond. Gandalf, the wizard and guide. Elrond, renowned for his wisdom, healing, and feats of magic. Though different in form, both represent and channel the same archetypical force, the magician archetype. In the world of psychology, the archetypes represents the psychological patterns, our human primordial instincts, that continues to guide our thoughts and actions to this very day. These archetypes have existed in our collective unconscious since the dawn of humanity, and can be found in myths and stories across cultures, including Lord of the Rings.
An archetype is like an old watercourse, along which the water of life has flowed for centuries, digging a deep channel for itself.
The magician archetype is commonly portrayed or seen as a wizard, seer, or visionary of some kind. The magician embodies knowledge, transformation, and the power to bridge between the seen and unseen. Both Gandalf and Elrond, figures and symbols of the magician archetype, are blessed and cursed with knowledge. They see truth clearly, and in the cold light of logic, Middle-earth is doomed. The equation is simple. Sauron's power has grown too great, his armies too vast. By reason alone, he cannot be stopped. But Aragorn embodies a different archetype, one you may already have guessed. He is the living image of the king archetype. The king archetype is the primordial instinct that will drive one to bring stability to chaos, to embody authority, responsibility, and above all, to protect. Unlike the magician, the king does not bend to facts or calculations. He is guided by what is right, not facts. So, in full alignment with his archetypical nature, Aragorn rejects despair, just like he did when Gandalf the Grey passed and the Fellowship succumbed to sorrow, or when he brought hope to a young soul upon the walls of Helm's Deep. Where the magician sees only inevitability, the king demands hope, especially when reason says there is none. But while the insistence on hope is noble and is required for any chance of a potential victory against the forces of darkness, Aragorn, the king, is yet to mature, and that is what Elrond has come to change. As the magician and source of transformation that he is, at first glance, it may seem as though he is urging Aragorn to surrender, to abandon the fight, to spare lives from needless loss. But that is not his purpose. If there is to be any true hope of victory, Middle-earth needs not just a fighter, but a true and mature king. And such a king must face reality without illusion, even when that reality suffocates with despair. Elrond's task as the magician is to confront Aragorn with this truth, shaping him, pressing him towards maturity, and preparing him for the full release of the king archetype that he knows lies waiting within him. So, when Aragorn finally surrenders his noble but naive illusion of boundless hope, when he admits that he needs more men, Elrond does not rush to comfort him. Instead, he watches, waiting to see if Aragorn can withstand the weight of despair he has just stepped into. And he can.
Jung said that to be in a situation where there is no way out, or to be in a conflict where there is no solution, is the classical beginning of the process of individuation. It is meant to be a situation without solution. The unconscious wants the hopeless conflict in order to put ego consciousness up against the wall, so that the man has to realize that whatever he does is wrong, whichever way he decides will be wrong.
Once Elrond sees this strength, he unveils the next stage of the trial. Aragorn must confront his shadow. This is a trial as old as humanity itself. The shadow is that part of the psyche where we bury what we cannot face, our fears, our shame, our forbidden impulses. For one who embodies the king archetype, the shadow holds dishonor, disloyalty, betrayal, the corruption of authority itself. And in The Lord of the Rings, Aragorn's shadow is given form in the dead men of Dunharrow. They are the very image of broken oats, men who once betrayed their word, now cursed to linger in shame. It is a curious thing to consider. How would Aragorn have reacted to Elrond's proposal before he was tempered by despair? Filled with false, naive hope, he likely would have rejected it outright, clinging to his so-called virtuous values and refusing to see the necessity of compromise. And this is precisely why his descent into despair is so crucial. For only by being broken of illusion can he learn to embrace the traits that dwell in the shadow. These darker elements, dishonor, doubt, betrayal, do not exist merely to corrupt. They temper. They force one to question, to challenge one's own perspective and goals. And it is only through this trial that true action emerges. Action grounded not in naive virtue alone, but in a balance of virtue, truth, and hard-won discernment. While Aragorn resists Elrond's proposal, he does not reject it outright. Instead, he retreats into despair. They answer to no one. he mutters softly. These are not the words of the true king, but of the immature Aragorn, his fear cloaked in the guise of humility, a fear that has always whispered of inadequacy, of weakness unworthy of the throne. But Elrond, the magician, sees beyond what Aragorn himself can bear to face. He perceives the king within him, one born not from light alone, but from the union of light and shadow, one that is now ready to take the throne within. And so he presents him with Isildur's reforged sword, the very symbol of everything Aragorn once feared most. It is both weapon and trial, the steel embodiment of lineage, failure, and the burden of destiny. This gift does more than prepare Aragorn to summon the dead men. It marks the threshold of his final trial, a trial not merely to gather soldiers for the cause, but to transform Aragorn himself, shaping him into the king he was always meant to become. Aragorn accepts the quest of transformation, and with his companions he enters the Dark Cave, an ancient symbol of the shadow. Within its depths awaits not merely an army, but his shadow double, the King of the Dead.
The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
In the film, we watch Aragorn and his companions wander the haunted paths of shadow, corridors echoing with horrors. But in the YouTube video we are analyzing, the focus jumps ahead to the moment they finally confront the King of the Dead. He challenges them, demanding to know why they trespass in what he deems his domain. These are the words of the tyrant, the shadow of the king, an archetypical force that twists authority into domination, sovereignty into control. And it is not unique to this figure. This same dark archetypical nature resounds through others in the story, including Sauron himself. This is Aragorn's moment of truth, face to face with his shadow double. Where most would recoil, fleeing from the terror of the shadow, a symbolic act of suppression, Aragorn stands his ground. He does not tremble, for he has already faced the fears within himself. And so, when he speaks, it is with the voice of a true king. He does not plead. He does not bargain. He demands the allegiance of the King of the Dead. The tone carries shadow with it, edged with severity, but that is its strength. The old Aragorn, bound in fear disguised as humility, could never have spoken so. But this Aragorn, embracing the fullness of kingship, light and shadow alike, commands obedience. No quarter is given. The King of the Dead resists, cloaked in arrogance, certain that his ghostly legions could easily crush the mere band of three. But we are in the realm of the psyche, the shadow, where practical circumstances holds no weight. Here, only the symbolic has power, and what is felt becomes law. Aragorn does not merely recite the words of kingship, nor lean on lineage alone. He feels it, down to the marrow of his being. And it is this inner certainty, this lived truth, that shatters the power of the dead king. With unshakable resolve, Aragorn seizes him, threatening his very existence. The testing is not over. The true trial lies not in whether Aragorn can claim power, but in how he chooses to wield it. Another king, such as Sauron, would use this moment to dominate, to enslave, to bend the broken to his will, but Aragorn does not. Instead, he offers freedom in exchange for their aid. He does not seek subjects, he seeks allies. The offer is met with laughter, and the ghostly host begins to fade. At first, Aragorn and his companions take it as rejection, but in truth it is not. The laugh is not mockery, it is disbelief. The king never imagined this day would come, never thought Isildur's line still carried the true weight of kingship. As the spectral army vanishes, the cave itself collapses. This is no accident. It is the symbolic closing of a chapter. The shadow is no longer chained to the depths, no longer banished to the underground. It has been confronted, and more importantly, integrated into Aragorn's being. In psychological terms, this is individuation, the process of uniting shadow and light, forging a self that is whole. As they emerge from the cave, Aragorn and his companions behold the havoc unleashed by Sauron's forces. Believing his quest for allies has failed, Aragorn collapses to his knees in despair. But just as he is about to lose all hope, the dead king steps forward and declares, "We fight." On the surface, it seems simple. A ghost king and his spectral army pledging themselves to Aragorn's cause. But symbolically, it is far more profound. This is the shadow of the king, once repressed, once feared, now fully integrated. No longer separated from Aragorn, it is inseparable. It is his own inner voice rising up, commanding him. We fight. Get up. We do not surrender. It is a moment that reveals a deep psychological truth. That which we suppress often holds the very strength we need most.
No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell.
Empowered by the shadow, now embodied in the alliance with the dead men, Aragorn and his companions cut through Sauron's forces with ease. The ghostly host sweeps aside resistance, clearing the path for Aragorn to seize the enemy's ships, the means to carry him where he is most needed, into the heart of war, to Gondor, and toward the king's throne. Aragorn and his spectral host arrive in the nick of time. The ghostly army sweeps across the battlefield, effortlessly overwhelming Sauron's forces. In a single stroke, despair is broken and hope flickers anew. A renewed belief that victory, even against Sauron, might yet be possible. But now comes Aragorn's final test. Is he truly a king? One who can remain in balance between shadow and light? Or will he allow himself to slip into tyranny in the name of good? The test arrives as the king of the dead approaches, demanding Aragorn keep his word and release him and his men from their cursed existence. Here, Gimli, loyal companion, steadfast friend, and hero in his own right, reveals a flaw. Though he embodies courage and loyalty, kingship is not his nature. And so he exposes the weakness, famously shared by many of his kin, the temptation of possession. He urges Aragorn to break his promise to keep the dead bound under his command, to wield them as instruments of endless war in the battles yet to come. But Aragorn, son of Arathorn, heir of Isildur, king of Gondor, passes the final test. He feels the pull of temptation, the whisper of the tyrant, but does not yield. With clarity and resolve, he keeps his word, releasing the dead from their curse and granting them peace in the world beyond. And in that moment, the King of the Dead smiles. As he fades, he embraces not only the rest of death, but also the joy of dying as a true king. For in Aragorn, he has faced his own shadow, found reconciliation, and departed not as a tyrant bound by shame, but as a sovereign freed at last. So why do these scenes strike us as so powerful? If we look at the YouTube video itself and filter by top comments, the answer begins to emerge. The highest rated comment, with over 10,000 likes, comes from user Mark Sellers 4875. A promise given, an oath kept, honor restored, rest and peace granted, a beautifully encouraging story. Or the one from Big Daddy Cool 6930 adds, this scene is just another example of just how worthy an heir Aragorn is. His decency, humility, and sense of honor are not so easily matched. So, what does this reveal about the human psyche? It shows us that we are drawn to moments where the king and queen archetypes within us awaken. These are moments that can be invoked through real events, myths, games, or films. Anytime we witness someone who truly embodies the king. For when the inner sovereign stirs, it brings hope, comfort, and the deep sense that somehow all will be well in the end. In our modern age, encounters with true kings or queens in reality are exceedingly rare. Popular media often subverts archetypal expectation, presenting hollow imitations of sovereignty that may shock or entertain for a season, but leave no lasting mark. Such figures fade quickly into obscurity, for they are inventions of human whim rather than expressions of something eternal. Aragorn stands apart. He endures, not because he is merely well written, but because he embodies the king archetype in its fullness, justice, hope, and the will to fight for what is right. And unlike passing trends, archetypes live forever in the collective psyche of humanity. This is why Aragorn will always remain, not a fleeting character, but an eternal reminder of the sovereign spirit that dwells within us all.